Well, my obeisances to all of you. Thank you for joining. Special obeisances to Vishaka Prabhu. I see she's joined as well. And to all the attendees. We are on our third episode of this series, I believe. And so we'll continue right on time. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshtarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome to session 3 of Caitanya Charitamrita, the compact. Today's episode is known as Nimai of Nadia. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So let us begin by gently entering a very special moment. Not just in history, but in the deeper reality of divine descent. We're stepping into Nadia, into Navadvip. This place is renowned for its learning, for its culture, its debates, and its intellectual brilliance. This is a society where knowledge defines your status, where scholarship commands respect, and where intellectual victory shapes your identity. And into such a world, something profoundly unexpected takes place. The absolute truth himself appears, not as a king who commands armies, not as a warrior who conquers lands, not even primarily as a teacher who immediately instructs. Instead, he appears as a beautiful child, golden child. This child will grow. He will learn. He will play. He will argue. He will surpass all others in intellect. And then at a pivotal moment, he will transform completely. That transformation will not remain confined just to his own life, but will expand outward, touching countless lives and reshaping the history of spirituality. This is the journey of Nimai of Nadia. And as we walk through this journey together, I invite all of you to quietly reflect in your own heart. This is not merely his story. This is also a reflection of our own journey, all of us who are trying to be devotees. So before I move forward, it's important to ground ourselves in what we have already understood in our previous discussions. So we explored how we can recognize the absolute truth, not sentimentally or superficially, but through the guidance of Shastra, the authority of acharyas, and the manifestation of extraordinary qualities. Anyone remember what are the 4 sections of the Adi Lila? Then we'll talk about all these other questions, safe, God, and so on. This is just a quick recap if anybody recalls. You have notes? Let's see.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna Prabhu.
Dipali, please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned above the avatar. It's always mentioned in the Puranas.
Right, that's a safeguard. Right. Anyone remembers this Adi Leela sections? You see, Jyoti has already started it. Invocation, incarnation. That's correct. That's correct. Invocation, incarnation. I'll take you over here. Education and transformation. Right, if you recall this. We'll go to the slide again. Don't worry. And then, like you said, Deepali, thank you for sharing. The safeguard, right? It's Shastra, the Acharyas. So any other thing? Can you remember? Yes, Sarah?
Scripture, astrology and attributes, follow the acharyas, and extraordinary activities. Someone must
Fantastic.
have
Fantastic. Great, great. Excellent. And then we talk about the reasons, external and internal reasons for his advent. What is the external reason that he comes? It's very easy, this one.
Please his devotees.
Yes, to please his devotees. Yes,
Teach the Yuga Dharma.
to establish Yuga Dharma. Yes. Kirti Dasandari Mataji, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Gurudev. Also to give Prema Bhakti.
Yes, to give Prema Bhakti, that's correct. That's the external reason.
Internal reasons are to relish the position of the love of Radharani.
Exactly, that's right. That's right. Wonderful.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Ami.
Yeah, it's to relish the happiness.
Yes, that's right.
From the relationship.
Yes, to relish the happiness and relationship. Exactly right. Correct. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now who can name the Pancha Tattva and their positions? Like who they are? Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, again me. It's Panch Tattva is Advaita Acharya, Srivasadi, and Gaura Bhaktavrinda.
Okay. So Advaita Acharya and Srivas Thakur, you got two of them.
Gadadhara Pandit.
Gadadhara Pandit, that's three.
Yes. Nityananda Prabhu.
Yes, Nityananda Prabhu. And then the first one?
Chaitanya.
Chaitanya Prabhu, correct, correct. Okay, great. And then anyone remember about Krishnadas Kaviraj, why he went to Vrindavan? And who advised him to write Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Nityananda Prabhu.
Right, right. Very good. Thank you very much. So that's why he went to write Chaitanya Charitamrita. So now we're going to enter the Leelas. When we look at the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a whole, we see a beautifully structured journey spanning 48 years. It's not very long. 48 years, not long. These 48 years are divided into two equal parts, each lasting 24 years. The first half is his household life. That's the Adi Leela. And then the second half is life in renunciation. That includes Madhya Leela and Antya Leela. But even in the second half, we divide it from the age of 24 to 30, where he's traveling and preaching. That's Madhya Leela. And then from the age of 30 to 48, he's in Jagannath Puri, Antya Leela. We divide further the Antya Leela into the first 6 years, where he's associating with devotees. And then the remaining, he's in transcendental madness, spending a lot of time by himself with only a few devotees. So these are the dates. It's something to keep in mind is the structure and how the whole book is outlined. So we get a good sense of, we can place ourselves on the map where we are when we're reading. Now it's important to observe that the text gives greater emphasis on his later years. This is not accidental. The early years primarily reveal who he is, while the later years reveal what he has come to give. So when we understand his identity, just understanding that part inspires us but receiving his gift transforms us. And that gift is not ordinary. It's the highest treasure. It's divine love. It's freely given like never given before. So, of course, these are some of the other, in Chaitanya Bhagavat, for example, which is one of the other biographies, we see a lot of details are available. The Adi Lila talks about his household pastimes end with Harinam initiation. His Madhya Lila ends with Sannyas initiation. So it's structured a little bit differently. And his Antya Lila is, Sannyas pastimes. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, even though it's the same names, Adi, Madhya, and Antya, it's structured slightly differently. Madhya and Antya are about more of his sannyas years. So the question is, why does Chaitanya Charitamrita focus on sannyas pastimes? Like I said, the focus is on tattva. Tattva meaning the philosophical understanding. The focus on abhideya. Abhideya means the process of Krishna consciousness. The focus is on rasa. Rasa is the mellows of taste, of exchange of divine love. So this is, because those are the main areas of focus, you get more expansion on the Madhya and Antya around the sannyas pastimes. Okay? That's why it's focused a little bit differently. Now, Chaitanya Charitamrita, we already saw this map, and I'm going to keep bringing it every single time so we know where we are. We're going to start. So we already covered invocation, and now we're looking into incarnation and so on. This is not written merely as a historical biography. It is meant to be a guide for our own transformation. You see transformation here? And look at the symbol for transformation. It's a little butterfly. Butterfly is very different from what it was when it was a caterpillar. Completely different. It's transformed. So as we move through the narrative, we see these three layers. What are the three layers? We just talked about those. First is tattva, which answers the question of truth. Who is Krishna? Who are we? And what is the nature of reality? That's tattva. Second is abhideya, which is the question of practice. How do we live in alignment with that truth? What is our process? How do we live it? What do we do? Are we just supposed to believe and not really do anything or change any actions? No, we're supposed to do a lot of things. We've got to change the way we live, what we do, what we don't do. And finally, there's rasa. Rasa reveals the experience of that relationship. What does it feel like to be connected to Krishna in love? Rasa is the foundation of that. Rasa is the main element of that. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not stop at intellectual understanding, nor does he stop at some kind of external ritualistic practice. He leads us all the way to experience, to the living reality of divine love. He shows us how we can tap into it, connect, access that love beyond ritualism. So this is the flow of nectar. We covered invocation, right? Remember the last time. Now we'll be going into the next session here, this incarnation, these chapters. And then further chapters will be covered as well. Now let's step back and widen the lens historically. Because to truly understand Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, we have to understand what happened before he came. Spiritual history is not random. It's responsive. It's deeply, it responds to what happens, what people do. So after the departure of Lord Krishna from this world, it's about 3000 BC. 3000 BC is 5,000 years ago. Right? Something gradual begins to take place. the clarity of spiritual understanding begins to decline rapidly. Vedas are still present. The knowledge is still available. But the application of that knowledge becomes distorted. Instead of understanding the heart of the Vedas, people begin to focus excessively on ritual, externals. Sacrifices become external. Intentions become corrupted. In some cases, even violence against innocent creatures begins to be justified in the name of religion. You know what was happening was because, and if you're following along, you'll notice 5,000 years ago after Krishna left, the yuga changed to Kali Yuga. Went from Dwapar to Kali Yuga. So the traditions began to decline very quickly. And the Vedas, which actually allowed animal sacrifice in the past, but that's not allowed in Kali Yuga, some of the corrupted Brahmins started abusing that and started just killing animals. Of course, the Vedas allowed in the past to prove the effectiveness of the mantra and the yagya. So when they would do the fire sacrifice and the animal sacrifice, the mantras would bring back that animal to life with a newer, fresher body. So it's not like the animal was killed as such. It was just that it was given a rejuvenated body. But in Kali Yuga, it's not possible to do that. So in the name of that procedure, they just started having animal killing, and they started eating the animals in the name of sacrifice at temples. The rivers of blood. So this happened, in Kali Yuga, the starting part. So at this point, the Lord responds. He comes in a very unexpected form. Lord Buddha appears, Gautam Buddha. Now we must understand something very carefully. Buddha's mission was not to deny the truth, but to reset the field. When people are misusing scripture, sometimes the first step is not to add more philosophy. The first step is to remove the abuse and the misuse. So Lord Buddha does something quite radical. He sets aside the authority of the Vedas. He says, forget about the Vedas, just listen to me, okay? Main thing is nonviolence, ahimsa, compassion to the animals, be detached, And very interestingly, he avoids direct discussion of God. Why? Because people are not ready. They're just so absorbed in killing animals and being selfish and being demoniac. There's no point discussing God. Just don't talk about God right now. He said, I don't discuss such things. Because they were using the concept of God and the Vedas to justify harm. So he had to kind of temporarily remove that from the conversation. This is a divine strategy. It's not denial, but it's a strategy. It's a strategy to prepare for the next steps. Okay. Now, we see in this picture, of course, the world religion side, we can get a sense of what was happening on the other parts of the world. So 0 AD is where, Jesus Christ appeared. 500 AD is where Muhammad appeared and Islam was founded. This is rough dates. Now, you see Shankaracharya appeared. After Buddha, there's a new problem. People have moved away from misuse, but now they've also moved away from the Vedas themselves. The pendulum has swung. At this point, another powerful personality appears, Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara. Shankaracharya's mission is very precise. He has to bring back the authority of the Vedas to the people. But here's a challenge. People are no longer ready for a full theistic, personal understanding of God. Because Buddhism denied everything. He said everything is zero. There's no God. It's all zero. So what does he do? He introduces impersonalism, and he teaches that impersonalism through the Vedas. It's known as covered Buddhism, Channa Bauddha. Why? So that you can reestablish the Vedas into the mindset which has already become Buddhistic and atheistic. So he teaches that absolute truth is ultimately formless, without distinction, without differentiation. Any differences you see, they're illusions. So then it becomes easier for that Buddhist saturated atheism to kind of grasp this point. Of course, this is not the final teaching. This is a strategic intermediate step. Shankaracharya restores respect for Shastra. He restores philosophical rigor. He restores spiritual inquiry. But he does it in a way that the people at the time can accept. So the Vedas are established in an incomplete form. Then what happens? Then these great Vaishnava acharyas show up. Ramanujacharya in 1000 AD and Madhvacharya, and they teach personalism now. They reestablish personalism from the Vedas. And in an effort to then reestablish the full truth that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So Ramanujacharya, he established personalism. Madhvacharya taught this philosophy of pure dualism. See? Pure dualism meaning that we are always distinctly different from Krishna. So what does that mean? When Ramanuja came, so you got Buddha, you got Shankara, you got Ramanuja, you got Madhvacharya, right? These are the personalities here. When Ramanuja came, he taught that absolute truth is not just an undifferentiated force. The absolute truth has qualities, has form, has personality. And importantly, a distinction or difference exists. We are not identical with God. But also we're not completely separate, you know. This is a major correction. Then we have Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya takes it further. He emphasizes the difference is real. God is God, the soul is the soul. And that distinction must be preserved. See, that's why he's always holding up two fingers like this. You can see in the picture. We are two always. The distinction is eternal. Our individuality is eternal. So observe the progression philosophically. I'm just, try to understand how it flowed. Lord Buddha came to save the animals. He says, forget about Vedas. It's all, just focus on nonviolence. Then Shankaracharya came. Shankaracharya, by the way, is considered an incarnation, partial incarnation of Lord Shiva. So he was sent by the Lord to do this. Okay. And he denied the difference because he had to reestablish the Vedas. So with Shankaracharya, the difference is denied. Ramanujacharya, the difference is detected. So we are different. Just be mindful of that. And Madhvacharya, the difference is emphasized very heavily. So difference denied with Shankara, difference detected with with Ramanuja, and then Madhvacharya difference is emphasized. So each step is refining the understanding. Each step is moving closer, but it's still not complete. And now we arrive at the moment where everything comes together. Because all these teachings are like pieces of a puzzle. And we arrive with Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He does not reject these Vaishnava acharyas, or even Shankaracharya in one sense. He harmonizes them. He reveals something that can synergize, synthesize, and bring harmony to all these philosophies. It's called simultaneous oneness and difference. That we are one with God, but we are also different. It's possible. It's very difficult to understand. That's why it's inconceivable. Achintya. Bhed means difference, and abhed means non-difference. So achintya bheda bhed, bheda abhed. Inconceivable oneness and difference. Not just intellectually, but experientially. You can experience it, he says. He shows that. It's not something you just write down and pass an exam on paper. No, you'll feel it. You will see, my dear devotees, he says, we are one with Krishna in quality, but we are different in identity. And the relationship between the two, that's the main point, is love. So what was denied with Shankaracharya, what was detected with Ramanujacharya, what was emphasized with Madhvacharya is now harmonized with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's. Denied, detected, emphasized, harmonized. And what is it? It is our relationship with the absolute truth. We are not God, but we are part of God. We're eternally distinct, and yet we're so close to Him and tied to Him with love, an eternal loving bond. In one sense, we're one, and also different. This is why His appearance is so significant from the point of view of philosophy. Because He's not just another teacher, He is the culmination of all these philosophies. That's very important. Now we approach the moment of descent when the infinite enters the finite. When the Lord appears, He does not come randomly or without purpose. Every aspect of His appearance carries meaning, carries intention and teaching. The year is 1486 in Mayapur. On a full moon night, at the time a lunar eclipse is taking place. According to tradition, people gather to chant the holy names during such events. It's not considered auspicious when a lunar eclipse is there. So they go to the river, so they're in the Ganges, they're chanting. The entire town is vibrating with the holy name. People are loudly chanting and calling out Hare Krishna with great intensity and sincerity, raising their hands up in the air. At that exact moment when the eclipse is going on, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears. This is deeply significant. He doesn't enter into silence. He enters into kirtan. From the very beginning, His message is established. Chanting is not something to be adopted later. It is a very foundation of spiritual life. It's from the very beginning you chant. So from the very moment He appeared, chanting is His thing. As we observe His childhood, we see a beautiful balance. God is not only great, but also sweet. In His early pastimes, Nimai, which is His name, that's given to Him because He's born under a neem tree. So Nimai, He displays charm and playfulness and a natural intimacy that draws people to Him. And as we observe His childhood, we see that sometimes people cry until they chanted the holy. He would cry, and the people would be chanting the holy name. Then He would stop crying. And if people stopped chanting the holy name, He would start crying. So he made them practice spiritual life. So even from His babyhood, He's gently teaching. Devotion is not distant or abstract. It is personal and immediately accessible. You don't need to be educated. You just access it immediately. Just chant Hare Krishna. See, if God was only great, if God were only great, we might remain at a distance in awe. But God is also sweet, and we are drawn into relationship with Him. And bhakti is ultimately about relationship. See. So, Advaita Acharya, you can see him over here, he prayed to his Shalagram and worshipped his Shalagram Shila with tulsi leaves and Ganga water and roared, "My Lord, please appear. We really need you. This Kali Yuga is getting very heavy." So then on February 18th, 1486, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is born. Where? In Sridham Mayapur. This is the spot that they've identified where he's born. He is given different names. Nimai, Vishwambar, and Gauranga. Nimai means born under neem tree. Vishwambar means he'll hold up the entire existence, Vishwa, and he'll nourish it. And Gaura Anga means his limbs are golden, the golden limbed one. So as Nimai grows, his brilliance becomes increasingly evident. He's sharp, he's observant, he's intellectually fearless, he studies deeply, but he's also studying people, society, and human nature. This phase is not accidental. Before transforming the world, he fully enters it. He understands its dynamics, its values, and its limitations. This prepares him for the transformation that will come later. But from the very moment of his appearance, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Balya Leela, his early childhood pastimes, Balya Leela, from birth till 5 years, reveal that he's not an ordinary child. So we saw he's born during the lunar eclipse and everybody was chanting spontaneously. As a baby and toddler, Nima would display mystical and divine qualities in the most charming ways. Of course, like we mentioned earlier, he would cry until people chanted. Even the neighbors learned, if you want peace in your neighborhood, chant. Otherwise, I'm going to make a ruckus. So that's in our life too. If we chant, we'll have peace in our lives. Otherwise, life is just going to be a ruckus. There's no peace without Krishna. There are also many mysterious occurrences. Thieves once tried to kidnap him. But let's see, I think over here. Yeah. But by his divine arrangement, they became bewildered, ended up bringing him back home. At times, he would reveal glimpses of his divinity, and he'd quickly cover it with his sweet, childlike innocence. He made chanting joyful, natural, and irresistible. And his childhood was not just playful, it was instructional through sweetness. God is not only great, God is sweet. Here in Lord Chaitanya's childhood, we see something even more attractive than the awe-inspiring majesty of God. The Lord becoming a playful child is dependent on his mother, smiling, crying, laughing, engaging lovingly with everyone. This is the unique gift of these early pastimes. So in summary, his childhood Leela teaches three powerful things. The holy name is central to spiritual life. The Lord draws us in through sweetness, not through force. And ultimately, the greatest divinity is intimacy and love, because God is sweet. We move on as the flow of nectar continues. Part 3 of this section is education. So as Lord Chaitanya enters his Pauganda Leela, Pauganda is age 5 till 10. A new dimension of his personality begins to unfold. You know, the same child who was so cute and he's enchanting everyone with his sweetness, now begins to display extraordinary intelligence and confidence and leadership. So he went to school and very quickly became known as the most brilliant student around. He mastered Sanskrit grammar with such great speed. Sometimes often he would surpass his teachers. But what made him unique was not just his intelligence, but his playful use of it. He was just so casual and playful about it. He would challenge his classmates and debate them and cleverly defeat them in arguments, at the same time maintaining his charming, boyish nature. So these pastimes, they highlight an important educational lesson. Even for us, true learning is not passive. Nimai showed that education should be dynamic. It should be joyful. It should be engaging. It shouldn't be boring. If it's boring, we're not doing it right. He didn't simply memorize. he did memorize, but that's not everything. Memorization is an important part, but he also questions, he analyzed, interacted. In today's world, sometimes education can become mechanical. So his example reminds us that learning should awaken that curiosity, deeper understanding, make it lively. But beyond academics also, his pastimes reveal certain lessons which are important for us. Confidence without arrogance is what he demonstrated. Yes, we can be confident. We should be confident. We don't have to be arrogant. And although he was the most brilliant among his peers, most learned, his purpose was never to dominate others or to make them look bad, but to draw them in, to uplift them, and ultimately connect them to something higher. So that's first, confidence without arrogance. Second, he showed the importance of community and the importance of relationships. He'd gather his friends, he'd play and joke and interact in ways that created deep bonds. Spiritual life, as he demonstrated, is not meant to be isolated. It's meant to be shared, lived together. It's very organic and dynamic. And most importantly, even in this phase, when he appeared absorbed in scholarship and debate, he was preparing the ground for something deeper. His learning was not an end in itself, but a foundation for his future mission. This transformed the knowledge into devotion. His education should lead to deepening wisdom and transformation. And our intelligence should be used in the service of uplifting others. So success in life is not just being smart, but being spiritually connected and compassionate. That's success. Then as Lord Caitanya enters his Kaishora Leela, which is youthful pastimes, 10 to 15, ages 10 to 15, his personality matures into Nimai Pandit. He travels, well, first of all, he starts his own school at a young age. School of Sanskrit Grammar and Logic. So students are naturally drawn to him because he's already so sharp and smart. And he's a great teacher. So he becomes known as an intellectual leader, effortlessly defeating people in debate. You can see, even though he mastered knowledge, doesn't mean that he kept it to himself. He used it to attract and engage others. Then he begins to travel. He begins to travel to East Bengal, today it's known as Bangladesh, that area, where his fame spreads even further. He teaches, he debates, he earns wealth. Yeah, when you go to debate, you teach, people offer you money and things like that. So he earns wealth, he earns recognition, and he builds a reputation as a scholar. It becomes established well beyond the town of Navadvip. Then, of course, he had gotten married, but during his absence, his wife, Lakshmi Priya, passes away from this world. So then when he comes back, let's see here. Yeah, so when he comes back, things change. His life becomes a little more introspective. So at this stage, Nimai is a renowned scholar. He's a confident debater. He's an intellectual force in Navadvip. And this sets the stage for the dramatic encounter with, which will be revealed. His intelligence will be revealed at the next level. This is one of the most powerful and dramatic moments in his early life. So let us slow down a bit and enter the scene. This is Navadvip. It's alive with scholarly activities. Debates are taking place, and reputations are being established. Intellectual victories are defining the prestige of different people. In such an environment, this renowned figure known as Keshav Kashmiri from the Kashmir region, he's known as Digvijay. Digvijay scholar means he's defeated opponents all across the land. So he carries with him the confidence of countless victories and the expectation of continued success because no one has been able to challenge him. He's just so brilliant. At this time, Nimai, you can see, is just a young boy. He's a young teacher. He's seated among his students. He's a teenager. He's peaceful. He's simple and composed. When they meet, there's no hostility. Nimai respectfully requests that Keshav Kashmiri recite verses glorifying the Ganga, sitting at the bank of the Ganges. And Keshav Kashmiri begins. And what follows is astonishing. Verses that flow effortlessly, rich in poetic beauty, complexity, and delivered with incredible speed and precision, and just so many alliterations and beautifications and so on. Everyone is just impressed deeply. Nimai is smiling. He's listening attentively. He doesn't interrupt, of course. Then with humility, he praises this composition. Wonderful, wonderful. Really? Keshav Kashmiri asked, what? Did you even capture what I said? And Nimai said, yeah, I memorized every single verse you said, even though it's like the wind. Wow. So Keshav was stunned. He said, okay, what should we talk about? Then Nimai said, let's discuss one verse. And he narrated back exactly the way, verbatim, the way Keshav Kashmiri had recited it. And Nimai begins to analyze the verse, pointing out subtle poetic redundancies, nuanced inconsistencies. Of course, his tone is respectful, of course, very nice. His insights are very precise and they're undeniable. Nobody can deny them. The mistakes that Keshav Kashmiri made. At that point, this invincible scholar, Keshav Kashmiri, becomes unsettled. He realizes, wait, this is not ordinary intelligence. This is something far beyond. And he felt defeated. And he was crushed, actually. He could hardly sleep. When he tried to sleep, then he got a revelation. Saraswati, his goddess, appears to him and reveals that, Keshav Kashmiri, you're so lucky. You got defeated by the Supreme Lord himself. He is my Lord and he's your Lord too. The next morning, Keshav Kashmiri goes and takes shelter of the Supreme Lord, no longer with pride, with folded hands. So the pastime teaches us that even the highest intellectual achievement finds its completion in devotion only. Knowledge alone is not the goal. It must ultimately bow to divine love. So here we see that Mahaprabhu, he begins to engage with the full spectrum of different spiritual thought that exists around him. He engages with other religions. He engages with Mayavadis and impersonalists. He talks with other Vaishnava sampradayas. He talks about rasa theology. He encounters all these different schools of philosophy, different religious traditions, different approaches to understanding truth. Some emphasize rituals, some emphasize knowledge, some emphasize renunciation, some emphasize impersonal realizations. But what is striking is how he approaches them. He doesn't approach these with dismissal or hostility. He listens, he understands, and then he refines. He takes what is incomplete and brings clarity to it. He takes what's fragmented and he harmonizes it. He takes what is elevated, but maybe elevated, but it's impersonal, and then he infuses it with personal relationship. So what happened was in his presence, his philosophy, or any philosophy that was brought to him, was no longer dry speculation. He would infuse it. It becomes alive. It becomes purposeful. It becomes relational. And ultimately, everything he touches begins to move toward a single conclusion. That the highest truth is not merely to understand God, but to love him. And that's the culmination of all philosophy. So now we're moving right along. Of course, because this is a compact version, we're not getting too much into the stories. We're just touching upon some highlights. So we're moving quite fast, actually. We're already in chapter 17. All these stories we've seen so far, his childhood sweetness, his intellectual brilliance, his scholarly dominance, his engagement on a philosophical level, all of this has been a preparation. It's been a careful unfolding. It's a setup. Because what's about to happen is not a small shift. It's not an incremental change. It's called a complete transformation. It's not a little bit at a time, it's massive. What is that transformation? Up until now, he has shown what human excellence looks like at its highest level, intellectual level. But now he's about to reveal what divine love looks like and when it takes over the heart completely. And this transition is essential for us to understand. So he gets holy name initiation. And that's hugely transformative. It's important for us to understand because no matter how elevated we become in knowledge, no matter how accomplished we become in the world, there is still something beyond. There is still a deeper awakening waiting. These are his transformations from scholar to Nimai the Bhakta, then taking sannyas as Sri Krishna Caitanya. So his initiation moment arrives. These pastimes are very detailedly explained in Chaitanya Bhagavat. He goes to Gaya. Externally, it appears very simple. He travels to Gaya, which is a town where everyone goes to perform rituals for the departed fathers and grandfathers. So he went for his departed father. Seems like a traditional act. Everybody expects to do it. But there in Gaya, he meets Ishwarapuri. This meeting is not accidental. This meeting is destiny. He receives initiation from Ishwarapuri. And when he receives that, something within him breaks open in a way that cannot be contained. The scholar begins to dissolve. The identity that had defined him, Nimai Pandit, the undefeated intellectual, begins to fade into the background. And in its place, something entirely new emerges. You have a devotee, not a casual devotee, not a ritualistic practitioner, but a devotee whose heart has been fully awakened. He begins to chant the holy name, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But now his chanting is no longer intellectual or formal. It is filled with emotion. It is filled with longing. It is filled with tears. He's showing us how to chant our japa. He cries out for Krishna. He searches for Krishna. He experiences separation, intensity, depth of feeling that's beyond ordinary comprehension. The one who once conquered the greatest scholars is now conquered himself by the holy name. This is the turning point, because from this inflection point, everything changes. It is now the birth of Kirtan. Where his whole goal is to spread the holy name everywhere. And he starts engaging in chanting in a Sankirtan party like this. See? He talks about the theology of the holy name. That Krishna and his name are not different from each other. He talks about propagating this now all over the place. It's not just meant for a handful. This needs to go everywhere. Every town and village should be resounding with the name of the Lord. Now, as his devotion deepens, something else begins to surface. A few moments, rare moments, but they appear where his true identity of being the Lord shine through. They're revelations, they're manifestations, they're glimpses. Is the Mahaprakash Leela. We'll get into these later, where he just manifests his awesome divinity. Shadbhuj Darshan, we see the six-armed form of the Lord. See Krishna, Lord Ram, and Lord Caitanya. People see Krishna and Balaram. Is that mango party with a lot of, there's a miracle of that mango. We'll get to that in detail later. And of course, Caitanya Simha Leela, astrological calculations are there. So many interesting events that show his divinity. Now, these are revelations. They are manifestations. There are glimpses that cannot be explained by ordinary human experience. But it's important to understand the purpose of these exhibitions, these moments. They're not meant to display for an audience or to impress them. They're meant to establish something else, confirmations. There are moments where the veil is lifted just enough for those who are sincere to understand who he truly is. Quick confirmation. Whoa, okay, I get it. For those with faith already, these moments deepen conviction. For those with devotion, these moments deepen love. And for those who are attentive, they reveal that this is not just a saint, not just a reformer, not just a teacher. This is a supreme reality moving amongst us through space and time with us in the most intimate way. Now, as always happens when the truth begins to expand, naturally resistance tends to arise. The Sankirtan movement begins to grow. The holy name begins to spread. How does it grow? You can see. The mridangas come out, the kartas come out, and not just inside a building. They would have kirtan melas on the streets. This is very important for Mahaprabhu. And it's also very important for Prabhupada. He said everything should stop everything else if you have to, but we have to go out on the streets and do kirtan like Mahaprabhu. And so the movement begins to grow, the Sankirtan movement. The holy name begins to spread. People begin to gather. Hearts begin to soften. Lives begin to change. And naturally, not everyone welcomes this. It's just natural. When you have the greatest miracles happening, you have the spreading of Sankirtan, you'll create enemies. There is opposition. There is criticism. There is resistance from those who feel threatened, from those who do not understand, from those who are attached to the existing structures. But here is where something extraordinary becomes visible. The real miracle is not that opposition arises. The real miracle is what happens to the opposition. Those who come with hostility are met with compassion. Very famous story of Jagai and Madhai. The two drunkards are very sinful and they attack Nityananda Prabhu. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard about that attack, he was very angry and he was about to kill them. He invoked his Sudarshan Chakra. And Nityananda Prabhu said, please don't kill them. Because if you start killing people who are mean, nasty, in Kali Yuga, everybody has that streak in them. You have to, might as well just kill everybody. So please show them compassion. And let's work on their hearts instead. Let's remove the nasty streaks that are in the hearts of the men. So he had a lot of opposition. There's Jagai Madai, there's Gopal Chapal, the curse of Brahmanas, the Chand Kazi, all different stories. They're all opponents. Chand Kazi was a very famous one, where he sent his men to break the madangas of a Sankirtan party. And when Mahaprabhu heard, he got really angry. For a brief moment, he said, I'll kill everybody, all these people, rascals, how dare they do this? And they said, you know what? Okay, we won't kill them, but we will go and do Sankirtan. Even though they've banned Sankirtan, we will do civil disobedience. We will openly disobey the rule of law because it's the right thing to do. And so then, of course, Chand Kazi was transformed when he had a confrontation with Mahaprabhu and they had a conversation. And Mahaprabhu just won his heart. So those who come with hostility in these pastimes, they are met with compassion. Those who try to resist this, they're transformed. Those who oppose Mahaprabhu, they're uplifted. Remember, this is not a movement of conquest. It's a movement of transformation. It doesn't defeat enemies. It dissolves enmity itself. And that is a power of divine love. This is why this is really the most important thing that's missing in the world, is giving the living entities, the people, the common public, access to what they're thirsting for. Connection with God and peace in the heart. If there's a meaningful, genuine connection with Krishna in the heart, and there's peace, it dissolves enmity, it dissolves all the misgivings and the discontents of society. That is why this is the highest welfare activity. Yes, of course, feeding people or building hospitals, all that is very important, it's needed too. But the ultimate root is the peace in the heart. That can only happen when you reconnect with God, with Krishna. And that is what this movement is about. That is what Mahaprabhu's movement is about. That's what Prabhupada's continuing. And now we come to one of the most emotionally powerful moments in his entire journey. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu accepts sannyas. To understand this, we must pause and feel the weight of what this means. Well, I mean, just take sannyas was a big deal. No, it's a big deal. He leaves behind his home. He leaves behind his mother. He leaves behind his young wife. He leaves behind the identity that people of Navadvip know and love. It's not a symbolic gesture. This is real. This is personal. It's painful. And yet he does it. Why? Why would he do that? Not because he wants to withdraw from the world, but because he wants to give himself to the world more completely. By stepping away from one circle of relationships, he expands his embrace to include everyone. He's no longer just the son of one mother. He becomes the shelter of all. He's no longer limited to one place. He becomes accessible everywhere. He says, the world is my family now. And in that moment, his mission expands beyond all boundaries. Let's pause and take a step back. What have we just witnessed? We've seen a journey from childhood to scholarship, to devotion, to universal compassion. We've seen the rise of brilliance, and then the surrender of that brilliance into something higher. We've seen knowledge reach its peak, and then bow down before love. And this is where the real reflection begins. Because this is not simply a historical account. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just stepping out of the door and walking away. No. It's not just a historical account. This is an invitation to us, an invitation to move from knowing to feeling, an invitation to move from control to surrender, an invitation to move from searching to finding. Every one of us is somewhere on this path, somewhere between curiosity and conviction, somewhere between intellect and devotion, somewhere between distance and a relationship. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing us that wherever we are on this path, there is a next step waiting for us. There is a deeper level that we can access. There is more. There is so much more available. That's what he's showing. So, and in this age, he has made that next step incredibly accessible, this age of Kali. What is that? He has given us the holy name, how to chant it, how to approach it. What are the restrictions? No restrictions. Qualifications? No qualification required, no certificates. The holy name is not limited or restricted by qualifications. It's not limited by background. It's not dependent on perfection in anything. It is freely available. It is the next step. It is always the next step. And carrying within it is the highest possibility. What is that highest possibility? This divine love. And that's really what the whole thing is about, isn't it? So thank you very much for your kind attention and your valuable time. Thank you to School of Bhakti for facilitating. Please do visit the website schoolofbhakti.com and all these other social media channels that they have, YouTube and so on. Illuminate your journey. The journey of Nimai of Nadia is not simply something to admire from a distance. It is a doorway, and it's waiting for us to step through in a meaningful way. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So if anyone has any comments, questions, or I think we have some time for interaction. Yes, Vidhi.
Hi, sorry, I haven't been here the first few sessions, but I have done the Bhagavad Gita classes with yourselves. So it all very ties in quite nicely, you know, in our journey of the spiritual path. My question was on control and surrender. In the modern society that we live in, we have a lot of, you know, in our corporate environments, we have a lot of chats about control the situation or control this and control that, because if you sometimes if you lose control, you don't get anything done, and we live in a very execution prone world. So I just want to understand, as I read the Bhagavad Gita or read the chapters from it, or have listened to yourself, you know, you can't control water or sand, you know, you have to let it go, to keep your palm open to receive more. how do you do that with the corporate environment or the modern world we live in, where if you're not proactive or you're not, I don't know, there's an element of control, or AI is controlling us from the surrender. Because if you keep surrendering, then I don't think anything gets done. So I just want to understand how to implement it more than.
Yes, sure. This is a very good question. It's very real. It's a very important question, especially for modern practitioners like us. We're living in the modern world, the Western world, navigating careers, families, responsibilities. Like you said, corporate world. I'm assuming you're also in the professional field somewhere. The core tension in understanding this is control versus surrender. At first glance, it feels contradictory. The world, like you're saying, to be successful in the world, take control, be proactive, own your life. That's the key to success. Spirituality, surrender, let go, depend on Krishna. It's like two different things, contradictions. I think that's the core of your question, isn't it? Yes. In the teachings of the Gita, especially, like you mentioned, right? You've been following the Gita, spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. These are not opposites. They are meant to coexist. If you remember this, karma nevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, it's in the second chapter. You have a right to your duty, but you don't have a right to the fruits, to the results. That's interesting. Control your effort. Surrender the outcome. That's the key to understanding this. Mm-hmm. Control the effort, but leave the outcome to the Lord, because we have to understand the outcome doesn't depend on effort, although it may look like it is. You see? That's why a lot of the time people put a lot of effort, nothing happens. It just messes up sometimes. Krishna doesn't tell Arjuna to stop acting or to give up his responsibility. That part is control. You need to control it. Arjuna was controlling his arrows, very controlled. He was like, surrender the bow, shoot arrows anywhere. No, control, right? Act fully, he says, but offer the results. Be detached from the outcomes. So that is the essence. You see, karma yoga means you do the right action for the Lord. Bhakti yoga means you offer that action with devotion, that offering part. So what exactly do we control, really? We have to realize that we actually control very little. That's important for us to understand that. What can we control? We can control our choices. We can choose certain things. You can choose to eat strawberry today or a blueberry. That's your choice. Or you can choose to go into medicine or engineering. That's your choice. You can control that, right? You can control your effort, how much effort you put. You can control your intentions. Your intentions are important, but you determine your intentions. You can control your attitude. What attitude you bring to the table. It's not someone who doesn't make you. You choose your attitude. So we can control. And we can control our sadhana, our spiritual practice. These are things we can and should control. Our choices, our efforts, our attitudes, our intentions, our sadhana. What can we not control? What we cannot control? The outcome or the results. Cannot control that. Other people's reactions, you can't control it. The timing of the success or the failure, we can't control. We don't know when it's going to happen. When it happens, it happens. We cannot control external variables and circumstances. Most of our anxiety comes from trying to control the second list of what we cannot control. When we try to control things that are really beyond our control, we lose our serenity, we lose our peace, we lose our cool. Have you heard of the Serenity Prayer? Very famous prayer. It's called, you'll find it, people frame it in their walls and put it in their homes. You must have seen it, I'm sure. It's called the Serenity Prayer. It's actually taught in the Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. It says, my Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change or I cannot control. Grant me the courage to change the things that I can. And grant me the wisdom to know the difference between the two. You see, so a lot of anxiety comes when we don't have that wisdom to know the difference, and we think we can control something we cannot. See, that's very important. We have to separate those two. I'll give an example. Say there's a surgeon, right? Doctor is going to do a surgery. He prepares meticulously, trains for years, executes at full focus, amazing talent. But they cannot guarantee that the body's response is going to be a certain way. They cannot guarantee how quickly it's going to heal. They cannot foresee certain complications. Does that mean the surgeon has to stop doing surgery? No. The surgeon still gives 100% focus and effort, accepts that there will be certainty, and doesn't collapse if the outcome differs from what they expected. See, so that's an important aspect of it. See, so there's an illusion of control, that I am the doer, I control everything. This leads to anxiety, ego, and frustration. That's one problem. Then there is the other extreme where you're helpless completely. I control nothing. Why try? Why bother? This leads to laziness and escapism. We don't want that either. We don't want ego, frustration, anxiety. We also don't want to be trapped by laziness and escapism. These are both traps. Spiritual maturity is in between. It's ideal. I control my effort. Krishna controls the results, and I know he's in charge. That leads to both excellence and peace. But the wisdom is where you apply intelligence to know where to apply that. Now, it may not be clear all the time. That's why it comes with practice, experience. And sometimes you may need to ask the wise devotees. But that's what I can offer to frame it. Does that help, Vidhi?
Yeah, absolutely. I have another question around control. To me, that all makes sense. I mean, you have these large conglomerates led by, yes, I understand this is Kali Yuga and AI, there were talks about how AI will have the final sword, the white light, and then Krishna's going to come and dissolve it all after 45,000 years, because that's a period of the Kali Yuga, or 450,000, Now, my question is about, it's going to be a very political question, and I just want to understand something, that you have, say, Donald Trump today controlling or trying to control the world under his feet and under his thing. So he's making all the efforts to make sure, of course, it's a political game, and there's a lot of brainwave behind what's going on. Isn't that I can't, I mean, yes, he's not peaceful, of course. He doesn't have mental peace and he's got a big ego, etc. But the way he's controlling it is leading to the results he wants. He wants to show how powerful he is. He wants to show he can do whatever he wants. He can shut down airspaces. He can. So, how you talked about control coexistence efforts and not being attached to the outcome. But some individuals who are that strong-minded or are, doing a particular role, maybe because of his own manifestations, is able to control and getting the outcome he wants. Well, at least it looks out from a perception, from our perception. I don't know. Maybe he's not happy with the outcome he wants. He wants probably much more.
He's not getting anything that he wants. He's not getting any, right. I mean, if you look at the outcome, he said, when I'll do certain things, the prices will come down. The prices are higher than anything else. Everything he promised that he really wanted to happen certain way are not happening. They're all backfiring in his face. So it doesn't matter how brilliant you are, how powerful you are. It's just going to backfire. So obviously he's a clear example of how nothing works, no matter how much power you have,
He's destroyed people's lives.
Of course. See, that's everybody's doing that. Whether it's Trump or the previous presidents or the president, people are destroying this. This is Kali Yuga is a world of exploitation and destroying other people's lives, cheating and hypocrisy. This is rampant in this age. It's only going to get worse. But his intention, or at least his stated goal of bringing down inflation and this and that, they're not happening. He thought he'll be able to control his outcome. He's not able to do any of that. It's actually beyond his thing, And then now, back then he said, when I become president, just watch, day one, everything will go down in price. Don't worry. And now he says, it's very complicated. Nobody knew how complicated these things are. In his first term, when he said, from day one, within 30 days, I'll redo the whole healthcare system in America. It's very broken. And then people told him, no, it's very complex. No, I know I'm smart. I got a big brain. He comes, he tries it, he looks at it, and then he comes out and says, oh, nobody knew how complex this was. Everybody told him how complex it was. So my point is, no matter how brilliant, and he's not brilliant, by the way, but no matter how brilliant someone is, only what Krishna allows is going to happen. Okay. So that's where we as devotees have to observe and learn and work our lives in that particular way. Try to apply our maximum intelligence and
so the mass killings that are happening in Iran, Israel, Lebanon, all these places is allowed by the universal, the high universal.
There's nothing that happens without the sanction of the Lord. Now, you got to understand there's a difference between sanction and desire. They're two different things. Just because something is sanctioned doesn't mean the Lord wants it to happen.
So why is it sanctioned?
Yes, that's the cool thing. You think the Lord wants us to suffer? No.
Well, that's been bothering me for days. I keep thinking about it. Why are humans suffering the way they suffer?
Only days? It's bothering people for lifetimes. It's only bothering you for days. You must be pretty peaceful. No.
I've learned.
This is a fundamental truth of the philosophy, is that the whole world is created to facilitate our illusions. Okay, we are ultimately all indestructible spirit souls. Everything we see is like a temporary video game. Maybe played those video games as Super Mario Brothers, where the guy tries to do jumping around, eats this and this, whatever, and then he dies, and you get another life, and you do it all over again. That's what we're doing. We can't really die because it's just a video game. So everything we're seeing here, the suffering, the scores going up, and this, monster eating the Mario guy, whatever, none of it is actually, it's just a dream. But we insist that we want to enjoy or suffer this particular. So Krishna facilitates the video game for us. This is just a crude analogy, but it's a facilitation by the Lord to allow us to do all these things. And he doesn't enjoy it. He is not happy we're doing this. He wants us to be happy. He wants us to be with him, but he's not forcing us to be with him, because that would not be love. We are the ones who are foolish enough, to turn away from him and say, no, Krishna, you do your own thing. I want to be the center of attention, and I want my own world. And so he creates a Super Mario world for us. Right. That's what it's all about. It's a very simplistic analogy, but that's kind of high level what's going on. So he doesn't like the fact that he even has to create this for us. But if he forced us to be with him, that would not be real love. So to facilitate us turning away from him, he told us a million times, don't do this. It's going to be so much misery, and it's like all kinds of, you'll think it's all real and bloodshed, and it's not real, but it's going to be so painful. And so, no, I don't care. I want to go there. And that's our foolishness. Now, we don't even remember having done that, but that's what we've done. Everybody who's in this world has done that. We've chosen to turn away from God. And he keeps coming here every single day to pull us back. Come on, if you had enough of that silly video game, please come back. Let's have a real life. Let's go to have a picnic. And he's inviting us to his picnic, but we want to stuck in this ridiculous basement in the video game. That's our problem. And he keeps coming every single day to show us, come on, what, haven't you had enough of this nonsense? We are still insisting. That's our problem. And then we get angry at him why the Oompa Loompas or whatever are stamping on the Super Marios. That's a video game.
That's
right? Is that clear?
Yeah.
Is that clear? Think about that framework. That might help you understand it better. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. We have Gail Mataji and Trupti Mataji. Please go ahead, Gail Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, everyone. Yeah, I have a question, but I just want to quickly, make a comment or question about that political scenario. I was just thinking that even if Trump got everything that he wanted, right, it would still only be because Krishna sanctioned it. Whether he's brilliant or, fool number one, he may or may, whether he gets what he wants or he doesn't, either way, whatever the outcome is, it would only be because Krishna sanctioned it. So that was my comment about that. My question is about Digvijay Pandit, Krishna, Keshava Kashmir, when you said that he was fortunate because although, yes, he was defeated, his fortune was that he was defeated by Krishna. So, can you describe his fortune there?
Well, okay. How can defeat be fortune?
Mm.
See, back then, you gotta understand, it was a historical moment. There's a great Digvijay Pandit. He had conquered all over India with undefeated reigning champion. That's huge. He was worshipped everywhere, he was feared. And of course, he was overflowing with scholastic pride. So, why was this his greatest fortune, just being defeated? Because his false ego was broken. Before, he was thinking, I'm the greatest scholar. Believe it or not, that's a big burden to carry. You may not know it. You may think you're smiling because he has a big backpack of. So before he was saying, I'm the greatest scholar. After the defeat, he was like, I don't actually know anything. It unburdens. It's not humiliation. It is liberation from illusion. Without breaking our ego, spiritual life cannot begin deeply. Then you can really call out to Krishna because you're not being burdened by your own upadhis. That's one point. His ego was broken. Ego being broken is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. 2, he received divine revelation. His worshipable Didi came to him for the first time. It's not like she was coming to him every dream. It was the first time she came to him. And she told him, my dear devotee. And he was, first of all, very happy to see her. And then he asked her, what happened? I thought you were empowering me. He said, no, the one who defeated you is the Supreme Lord. This is extraordinary. Millions study for lifetimes. He got direct confirmation of the Lord's identity from her and the fact that he was in his presence and he got to interact with him. It was gratefully joyful for him. I mean, hugely joyful, right? Because he shifted from pride to surrender. So next morning he returns humbly, he offers obeisances, he gives up his pride. He didn't just lose the debate, he found his true position. The real victory. So before he conquered the world, after he's conquered by the Lord. And in bhakti, to be conquered by Krishna is the highest perfection. He became a devotee. See, to become a devotee is the greatest fortune. When your life gets redirected spiritually, so instead of continuing his fame and intellectual dominance and his external victories, he gained much more. This is called fortune. What are the fortunes? He gained devotion, he gained humility, he gained true knowledge, and his trajectory changed from material success to spiritual success. So spiritual success is way more than material success. Way, way more. I mean, it's like categorically different, right? We know that. So this pastime teaches us that Krishna's defeats are actually his mercy. Sometimes he breaks our plans to save our lives. He saves us from our own foolishness. The best thing is when the Lord saves us from our own foolish plans. He exposes our limitations. He humiliates our ego, but not to harm us, but to bring us closer. See? Have you ever been defeated in life? Maybe this career setback, maybe some other failures, maybe public embarrassment. We think, oh, this is terrible. But sometimes that moment is our Keshav Kashmiri moment, where our ego cracks, our real growth begins, when we become open to the higher truth. See? So Mahaprabhu reclaimed his devotee. And no one is more fortunate than one whom the Lord personally reclaims and corrects. Think about it. Personally, he can. See? So in the material world, we celebrate those who defeat others. In the spiritual life. The most fortunate person is one who is defeated by the Lord, because that defeat awakens the soul. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your question. Trupti Mataji and then Nanda Mataji. Go ahead, Trupti Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, my humble obeisances to you. I don't have a question. There are a lot of questions, but I'm not going to ask any questions now. I just have something resonate with me, what you discussed about Gautama Buddha and his teachings. And there were a lot of misconception, and I heard a lot of things, some of it in a negative way, and know someone who has been scholars and reading shastras, and now they are following Buddhism and all that. And just recently I have heard that. And what you explained, how you explained, is really, really touched me, and my way of thinking about him rejecting shastras and rejecting no God policy is for mercy and peace in humanity. So I just want to say thank you for clarifying that, and thank you for a wonderful, wonderful class and insight of it. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mr. Trupti Mataji. If you want to read more about it, there's a very nice essay by His Grace Ravindra Swarup Prabhu. He wrote in the 80s, like I think 84. It's called Spiritual Strategies for the Age of Iron. Maybe someone can Google it and find that essay and share it on the chat here. Spiritual Strategies for the Age of Iron by Ravindra Swarup Prabhu. And he outlines very beautifully in that one essay how Krishna how Krishna comes as Buddha, why he comes, and then Shankaracharya, why he comes, and then the different Vaishnavacharyas, the Madhvacharya, Ramanuja, what they do, and then what Mahaprabhu comes to teach, and then what Prabhupada comes to do. It's all there from the beginning, all the way down to Prabhupada. It's very brilliant. If you can find that essay, I would strongly recommend it. And it's based on Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who outlined that whole.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and it's all about time as well, what you said, that it wasn't the time for that yuga to embrace God or embrace scriptures or shastras in a fully way, because they were so in this killing animals and all this other negativity. So it wasn't the time, and it's always about the time. And for us, time is now to embrace the love of Krishna Prema. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, Shilen Prabhu and Venu Madhuri Mataji have both shared the link here on the chat.
Thank
so
you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Nanda Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your class this morning and some of the questions and clarifications that you gave. My question is really about some of the things you said, and I didn't quite capture it, but it was about that, in challenges, one shouldn't try to defeat somebody, but dissolve enmity. And you expanded on that, meeting aggression with love. Could you just say a bit more about that? Particularly, not always. Sometimes I think the challenge isn't always with the outside world, because you've explained that really nicely about the difference between control and surrender, but in our relationships with each other as devotees, where we are meant to be developing kind, loving relationships. So sometimes the anarthas emerge. How do we deal that within our own selves and with others?
Yes, it's a great question. Nanda, brilliant question. In devotee relationships, and then there's a question here by Jyoti. I'll come back to that. I'll come back to Jyoti's question in the chat, but let me answer your question first. In devotee relationships, the goal is not to defeat a devotee, but to protect the relationship and serve Krishna together. Why? Because a devotee is not just a person. A devotee is dear to Krishna. How we deal with them has spiritual consequences. Yes, even if the devotee is not very good at certain things and interactions and whatnot. I'm just going to have to, 1 second, mute some of these. So devotees are dear to Krishna, even if they're not, some of them are mean, they don't know how to treat people nicely, it's okay. But we should still offer them some respect from distance even, right? So from the Gita and of course from Mahaprabhu's, we know Tranada Bisunichin, humility, tolerance, respect, this is foundational. But when you talk about meeting aggression with love, what does that look like in real life? It does not mean, please understand, it does not mean to let someone walk all over you. Not mean you become a doormat. Because there are people who love to wipe their shoes all over you. They're looking for doormats in the shape of human beings. We don't need to do that. It does not mean avoiding difficult conversations. No, you have to have the conversations. What it does mean? It means firmness without harshness. You don't have to be harsh. Sometimes firmness is required. Harshness is never required. It means clarity without ego. Let me, articulate my position clearly. It doesn't mean there's ego. We just want to make sure there's clarity of understanding what happened here. So you should not be afraid to be clear, but make sure you're filtering out your ego. And sometimes you have to correct somebody, but you have to correct without contempt. You have to correction without contempt, genuinely meaningful and useful. So constructive criticism, for example, right? So that's important. Now, let's think of realistic scenarios for devotees. Two devotees are arguing about, and I'm assuming you're involved in sevas and things like that, right, Nanda? So maybe let's just talk about that. The two devotees are arguing about how a program should be run. And one devotee says, you always do things your way. You never listen to me. Okay, that's a scenario, all right? I'm sure you might have come across a scenario. A typical reaction is, that's not true. You're the one who never listens. And then you raise your voice and try to prove the other person wrong, right? And then you get ego clash and there's a long-term tension and you don't say Haribol to each other for 3 years, right? That's a typical reaction, but we don't want that reaction. We want a love-based reaction, not a tension-based, right? So love-based reaction is what? Responses like this. I hear that you're feeling unheard. That is not my intention. Let's step back. We both want this program to succeed. So you validate the emotion. You're feeling unheard. I'm not going to deny how you feel. I hear it. But you don't have to validate the accusation that you're always that way. No. So let's step back. We both want this to succeed. Let's figure out. So what I'm offering is, let us evaluate our immediate reactions. What do we do by default? What is in our muscle memory? Can that be shifted a little bit? Can we take a pause? If someone speaks to me harshly in public, I'm being disrespected by a devotee in front of 3 other devotees. My conditioned response is I rebut them publicly, or I'll say a sarcastic barb, or I'll do cold withdrawal, cold shoulder, or I'll show them next time when I get a chance. I'll do something like that in public. That's our conditioned response, not particularly constructive. What is a love-based response? Love-based response is later on privately. You can see, Mataji, can I share something? I actually felt hurt earlier. I value our relationship and I wanted to clear this out. So now you say you value the relationship, but you also want to clear the air that you felt hurt, and you can express it. This way you protect their dignity in public and you protect the relationship. Sometimes it's just too far gone and we've done too much for too long, but we should look for opportunities to change our habits as much as possible, to evaluate, am I doing a love-based response or my typical conditioned response? I hope that helps, Linda. This is a very deep topic of conflict resolution. We do week-long seminars on this, but I'll just offer a few words. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate your words. I think you're correct. If I was here to expand on the question, you're right, we would be here probably for a week. So maybe this is something to consider for the future. If you are doing any future courses on this, would you be so kind to let us know?
This is not my area of expertise at all. This is other devotees do it much better. I've just heard about them.
I suppose my question was related to you said that knowledge must bow down to love, and how one dissolves enmity, and that's something that one has to work within themselves first to be able to apply that really to others. So no, thank you so much, Madana-gopāla Prabhu. Thank you for your time and your clarity.
Shilen Prabhu made a little announcement that I'll be joining you in London in June. I look forward to seeing, hopefully I can see most of you, all of you. It'll be an honor to see all of you, those of you attending this class. I did want to circle back to Jyoti's question. Jyoti asked, is there a way, however small, to deeply care about what is happening and help rather than becoming indifferent to it? So actually, this is a very sincere and important question. It touches the heart of real spirituality. The distinguishing criteria or factor or quality of a devotee is para dukkha dukhi, one who actually feels the pain of another. When someone is in pain, they feel the pain. So if I'm surrendering in Krishna consciousness, does that make me detached? Or does it make us more deeply caring? So the short answer is that surrender process in Krishna consciousness does not create indifference. It creates a deep, steady, and intelligent compassion without anxiety. I think, is it possible to be compassionate without being anxious? And it is. Sometimes people hear, okay, don't be attached to outcomes, it's all Krishna's plan. It can sound like, so why care about anything? Just why try? Just detach. That's not what Krishna is teaching, you see. Krishna never told Arjuna become indifferent to the war. He didn't say don't care what happens. He says care deeply, but act with clarity, not confusion. A good doctor cares deeply about the patient, works tirelessly to help the patient. But the good doctor does not collapse emotionally after every failure, or does not become paralyzed by fear. Because they understand I'm responsible for the effort, not the outcome. Now, in bhakti, even something more beautiful happens. You don't become less caring. You become more caring, but for the right reasons. Why? Because you see others as souls. You act as an instrument of Krishna. So your care becomes less selfish, more stable, more selfless. When you see somebody suffering, you try your very best to alleviate the suffering immediately. But your approach to alleviate suffering of the people is slightly different from those who are materialists. Why? Because you want that person to get more, not just a sandwich. You want that person to get prasadam. You want that person to be closer to Krishna and find genuine peace that they will carry on forever, not something that will give them a little, just a small patchwork that doesn't really solve the problem. So as a devotee, you become more caring. And you give them solutions that are truly solutions, not just rescuing the coat of the drowning man. So that's how spiritual compassion extends itself. We have to help. I know this is a friend of mine. He says, someone came to me and I felt I should help him, the homeless guy. And so I took him to a sandwich shop and I got him this massive beef sandwich. And I was so happy that I paid for it. And he was happy because he wanted to eat something. Now, of course, from the mundane point of view, that's a very nice thing to do. But from a Krishna conscious point of view, it's massively sinful. How can it be sinful? You fed a hungry person, but you bought a beef sandwich, which is a killing of a cow. And not only you are now implicated in that sin of killing the cow because you bought it, but now the guy eating it, you're also implicating him. So both of you are going to hell in a handbasket. That's misplaced compassion. So we have to be careful when you say help. We have to help. We don't want to become indifferent. In fact, we become more sensitive, but we also get infusion of intellectual clarity and wisdom that comes with understanding Krishna conscious philosophy. So we have to apply it holistically. All right, Jyoti, I hope that helps.
Pranam Prabhu, thank you for your answer. My question was mostly because we discussed Trump, and I am trying to see God in everybody. That's what I'm doing for a week. And last night I was thinking about Trump and the thing, how do I see God in him? The divine in him. And that's when I don't know, I could help myself, and I was like, maybe it's like a hopeless situation. And like you said earlier, that sometimes we become hopeless. We can't do anything, kind of. So that's why I asked how can we handle such a thing rather than just turn our heads, or like you said, in a homeless person's case, like just giving them something for some time, or money or anything. Does it help? Maybe temporarily, but I don't know, long lasting. How do we make a difference? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's hard to see sometimes, but there are people who've been much worse than Trump, believe it or not. It's hard to understand, hard to fathom that there are people worse than Trump, but they have been. And like Hiranyakashipu did a lot more damage than Trump can ever do in his life. And yet, when he spoke with his son Prahlad said, "No, God is everywhere. He's in my heart and he's your heart." Prahlad said, "I see him in your heart." Prahlad can see the Lord in Hiranyakashipu's heart, who is much worse than Trump. We can certainly see the Lord is in everyone's heart. Remember, the Lord also gives freedom for us to make mistakes and also do things. And sometimes those two things, someone's karma and the mistakes become very magnified because that's what they got. And so we see these manifestations of it. Who would have thought Trump could even survive the first presidency? What to speak of getting elected to second presidency? It's like boggles the mind, and yet it happened. So his karma he's getting that karma, but he has to also deal with the consequences of karmic consequences of what he did. And the people who voted for him have to deal with karmic consequences. Think about that. So karma is very complex in this world. It's a very, very complicated video game that we're stuck in. So, all right. Thank you. I'll take one more because we're quite getting over the time here. Vidhi, please go ahead.
So probably you just talked about, the charity piece with the homeless person and the compassion one needs to hold in their hearts when I deeply care about it. Now, I'm just going to give you my life example. Instagram has a lot of these very sad looking videos coming through for animal care, for poor people, especially in India where a lot of elderly people are thrown on the streets because the kids don't want to look after them, bad childhood traumas, etc. Now, I deeply care about these things because I understand human pain is difficult. And when your loved ones don't understand your care for you, you need shelter. But my thinking is, how do you know if you want to pay for these charities that it's going into the right hands, right? Because you don't know these things. And of course, there are reputable charities for you to do this through where it's definitely going in. But how much to care about these things, because there's a form of guilt somewhere that you have a good life. We're self-focused, self-centered, very narrow way of looking at it. You're not living a full life, the community-driven life in the West, right? It's all about, I put myself first, everything comes later on. I know in the higher consciousness, we live in there are lots of circles. First circle is keep yourself full, your cup full and then look at all these other things. So I just want to understand the balance between, where do you draw the line for supporting somebody who's worse off than you because you have an understanding and deep care as you are awakening your consciousness, or a deep soul awakening, you understand these things, but it could be through life lessons, debts, medical issues, wars. So I just want to understand how much compassion is to be shown with clarity in these scenarios, if you want to contribute.
We need to have the highest compassion. We should allow our heart to feel the pain of others completely. And how does that come out? In the form of different charities, like you mentioned. There are many forms of charity in the world. Feeding the hungry.
Yeah.
Providing healthcare.
Yeah.
Education. Disaster relief, there's earthquake, flood. Okay. These are good. They're necessary. They're compassionate. In fact, in Krishna consciousness, we do these, like prasadam distribution in war zones or prasadam distribution in flood zones. We do it all the time. ISKCON does it. You might have seen videos of it where devotees are going to flood zones in boats and distributing hot khichdi to people who haven't eaten in 3 days. Massive. So devotees do that. It's part of Krishna consciousness, not beyond Krishna consciousness. You see, there's a distinction though. You see, all material charity addresses temporary problems. Krishna consciousness addresses the root problem. And I said temporary problems. Okay, what is that? What is the root problem first? So what are the real issues of life? The real issue of life is repeated birth and death. Imagine if I were to offer you that after this life, you will not suffer anymore and you'll have eternal life. Or you stay in this world cycle after cycle, but I'll make sure you're fed with khichdi every time or whatever. Which one will you choose? 10 million lives or no more lives? Right?
I would choose no more lives.
Yeah, but that's the point, right? And most people would if they understood it. So the real issue is repeated birth and death. The real issue is these mental, physical, emotional suffering. These are the real issues. The lack of lasting fulfillment, that's the real issue. Forgetfulness of our true identity as a soul, that is the real issue. Okay, let me give you another analogy. Suppose you see a kid on the street who is just lost and looks like he hasn't eaten in like 24 hours. Okay. And you see the kid and you say, oh, come. I'll feed you, give you some hot food. And then, I'll take you to school and maybe you can do a part-time job so you can have some extra cash money to spend. I'll show you how to do that. We can do that over here. Spend 3 hours a day in the grocery store, you're bagging groceries, and you have a part-time job, and I'll help you out. That's a very nice thing to do. But suppose you recognize the kid as the daughter of a billionaire who's lost her way. Is it better to return the daughter to the billionaire father or to give her that part-time job, earning £3 an hour? Which is more compassionate? You see, so is it better to help someone go back to God where everything is taken care of, or help them temporarily here? It's foolishness, right? Of course, the compassion is because you didn't recognize the situation. So obviously the first scenario where you give them a job and all that sounds like a very good option, but you don't recognize that the person belongs to a billionaire father who just lives down the road. So the real issue, even if you solve external problems, the hunger returns, illness returns, anxiety returns. Okay. So Krishna consciousness works at the deepest level of the self. When we contribute to Krishna conscious projects, and you're talking about, people throwing their parents on the streets, but when you actually give them value, understand meaning of value, of what family values are, why we take care of our parents, there's a spiritual root to all these good values. When you have a spiritual root strong, all the good things automatically happen. Compassion automatically happens. You're watering the tree at the root. So it solved the problem of the heart. What is the problem of the heart that we're struggling with? Struggling with loneliness, anxiety, emptiness. Krishna consciousness gives us a loving relationship with Krishna. It's not temporary relief. It's a deep fulfillment. Second thing, it transforms behavior. Prabhupada says, my miracle I've done, these hippies that turned happies, they were addicted to so many nasty drugs and things. So instead of just treating symptoms, addictions actually reduce, character improves, relationships improve. A spiritually nourished person becomes a better human being. He's not just a drunken bum taking, heroin and things like that. It multiplies goodness at all levels. It helps people become more compassionate, helps people serve others, helps society. So one transformed individual can help so many others, you see. So Krishna consciousness has a multiplying effect when you share that. That's why Prabhupada says, and the Acharya explained, that this is the highest form of charity, the highest form of doing good to society. So if you're deciding to allocate, say, for example, your donations for the year to different charities, I just give all my charity allocations to Krishna conscious projects. Could be a variety of them, but all Krishna conscious projects, because that's ultimately what's going to help people at the root of the problem. All right. Okay, Vidhi, I think that's about all the time we have for today.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. And my obeisance to all of you again. Thank you, Snehal Prabhu, Shilen Prabhu, for inviting me, and I look forward to seeing all of you next Saturday. Hare Krishna.